Hi, everyone, and welcome into Don't Tell Me How to Fan. My name's Josh Albrecht. With me, as always, is my good pal, John Taylor. John, we had the week off last week from Don't Tell Me How to Fan, and honestly, I was okay with it because I needed a little time to process the end of the Packers season. So it was okay, but we didn't talk. We didn't get to talk. So I was curious, one, how are you? And two, how are you processing the end of the Packers season?
I'm doing well, Josh. I wanted to live in a world where I didn't think the Bears could figure out a way to come back after being down by 20 plus points against the Packers for the second time in the same season. Sadly, that's not a reality I live in. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's inexcusable that it happened. There's a lot of things that you can point to as to why it happened. So the more I get away from it, the more I go, I don't really know how they would have done against Seattle. Seattle looks so super duper for real. So, with time away from it, I'm less frustrated. It was a heartbreaking loss for sure. But when you start looking at who wasn't available for the Packers, for me at least, I kind of go, this team was never going to make it to the Super Bowl with the injured players and everything else that we've discussed. So yeah.
It's funny because I got a lot of flack, but that reason alone is the reason why I said on Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh, which you can, of course, also listen to on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network from 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays, Monday through Friday, that I felt like that game, Packers-Bears, was the Packers Super Bowl, which is a unique situation. Usually we always say it's the Bears Super Bowl, right? Anytime the Bears play the Packers, it's the Bears Super Bowl. But this team was so beat up that I was like, yeah, if the Packers won that game, they would 100% go to Seattle and get destroyed. But they would have eliminated the Bears. And that makes it their Super Bowl. And all I got was flack from entitled town Packer fans being like, that's not the Packers mentality. That's a loser mentality. That's a Bears mentality. Then they lost to the Bears, and it was like the most devastating loss. And I'm like, almost as if the Packers lost their Super Bowl. And so
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I love it. I'm just saying I live in the world of realism. That's what it was.
I will say I take umbrage with calling it our Super Bowl because it implies that we don't or we couldn't or don't strive for better. I think the Bears legitimately, the only thing they really care about is beating the Packers. First, like culturally, institutionally, organizationally, they've been very vocal over the last 30 years about wanting to get back on the right side of that rivalry. So I think it is a little different. It puts a lot more weight on the Bears than I think the Packers can even give credit to, but it does matter. I mean, it definitely has a lot more weight and importance given that it's your longest standing rival in sports history, or at least in the NFL. And then obviously conversations about Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur and whatever weird petty back and forth they've got going on. Whether it's their Super Bowl or not, it had a lot of stakes. You heard it leading up to that game. Players like Keyshawn Nixon, Evan Williams, they were all, we kind of talked about it. We were excited about the language they were using, which was like, oh no, they're like aware that it's the Bears. They're excited to get their lick backs, their words. They wanted to get their get back. And then you get players afterwards coming out like Javon Bullard saying things like, yeah, when you've got, your foot on their throat, you kind of have to find a way to like get it done. And they didn't, like pretty aggressive language about them, just kind of like,
failing.
That were, yeah. And then, hearing like Micah Parsons talk about, his exit interview. It's like the first time he spoke since his ACL, 2.5 minutes of like pure gold. It's like, I mean, how that guy how you don't want to play hard for that teammate. I'll never understand, but he said, it's like, pressure is a privilege, yes, we are all teammates, but we are, I want to compete with you because if we all get better, we all get to eat, we all get paid, we all get to pursue this championship, but hell yeah, it's a challenge. Like I want to be better than you and I want you to want to be better of yourself. So, there's been a lot of reports talking about how everyone just kind of feels like that's a shot at Rashawn Gary. And I was like, Rashawn Gary, Carrington Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, take your pick. Any number of these guys seem to really let their foot off the gas in the moments where it really mattered. So
yeah, they 100% did.
Yeah.
I will tell you, it stung for me for a week. And then it was nice how there were distractions. So first of all, the biggest distraction was the conversation immediately went to Matt LaFleur. Does Matt LaFleur come back? What does Ed Policy do? All these conversations. And then the Rams eliminating the Bears made me feel at ease. Not
which
happy.
which they almost didn't do.
I know.
Yeah.
It was still terrifying, but the fact that it was over, I was like, okay. Deep breath. But then everything happens with Matt LaFleur. Ed Policy brings back not only Matt LaFleur, but then, although it's not official at the time of this recording, everything's staying the same. Russ Ball, Brian Gutekunst, they're keeping everything the same. They're keeping the hierarchy the same. They're keeping everything the same. I also got flack this week on Inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh because I said I don't feel like I feel like that message from Ed Policy of it being the Packers having their third straight seven seed and not winning the division for what now? It's been 5 years since they have that decision by him to change nothing, right? Like Ed Policy, that's what you get to do. You get to decide who is the coach, who is the GM, who's taking care of the finance, that's what you get to decide. And you get to decide the hierarchy of it. There were talks that he was going to change all this up. He ends up doing none of it and just saying, we're going to keep all the same. To me as a fan, I was frustrated with that because I was like, you're saying, hey, we had a lot of injuries, and if we wouldn't have had those injuries, we would have won the whole thing. And I'm sitting here going, I don't think that's true. Even if we wouldn't have had the injuries, there were plenty of glaring errors and mistakes that happened throughout the year that we pointed out on this show, on all shows. Everyone saw them. Mistakes, dumb mistakes, things that needed to be fixed. And so I just felt like as a fan, Ed Policy was putting out a message that didn't get me hyped that they were going to do necessary things. Do I think that everything's going to be the same? No, of course not. I would be stunned if the coaching staff looks exactly the same. If Rashawn Gary is still on this team. A ton of things. But the things that Ed Policy in his first year got to decide for him to go, nah, I'm good with everything. Let's just run it back. I don't know. It was deflating to me. Am I alone there?
Between the two of us, yes.
Okay.
I'm sure there's other people who feel that way about you. I'll say this. I'm not defending Matt LaFleur. He needs to get better or he needs to go straight up. There's the things that he is lacking, the things he's deficient on. There's been enough seasons with this current team, right? I think I've been pretty vocal about being like, we got to talk about with Aaron Rodgers and post Aaron Rodgers. Like this Packers team is a little different. So to talk about his 7 years as the coach of the Green Bay Packers, they're two very distinct parts. So when you look at heading into year 4 of Jordan Love, they're inexperienced, they're sloppy, they're undisciplined, and they're bad at special teams, right? And their situational football could be better. All of those things are now things that need to be addressed. We don't know what the contract extension is. They don't actually divulge numbers or financials for coaches, or at least the Packers don't, and they're not required to by the league to announce those contracts. So I don't know how many years he has left. My best guess is that he at least has 2 more years. Is probably signed for more, but basically they are going to let Matt LaFleur ride out this window, kind of like the Bills did with Sean McDermott. And they went, okay, this window's closing. We have to retool the roster around Josh Allen. It's not going to be with you, coach. And I think that's where I think Ed Policy ultimately came down to. So say whatever you want about this coaching staff. If you bring in a new person, a new head coach, and you need to install a new offense and a new defense, now that Hafley's gone, the conversation becomes, can you get all of these coaches, this much instability into this team before Parsons and Jordan Love's contracts explode in a way that could very well close this window if they don't win a championship? And the answer is probably not. I just think it's probably not. It's it is one of those classic conversations of in this specific situation, which Packers fans are maybe not going to be happy to hear, and I don't love it, but it's where we're at. You want to dance with the devil you know than the devil you don't, right? And I just think because the devil you don't know doesn't guarantee you a Super Bowl either, and it basically ruins Jordan Love's career as a Packer if you make a change and it completely halts their ability to go after a championship.
Can I just also say that everyone's been talking about this championship window. I understand that in a lot of other leagues with a lot of other franchises. Does that not seem like unfamiliar territory for the Green Bay Packers? Like legitimately, like maybe if you're living in the world of realism and you're looking at legit Super Bowl chances, maybe something changes. But otherwise, I feel like for our lifetime, the Packers have always been competitive enough to where we haven't used terms like the window is open or the window is closing on an opportunity for the Packers. Is that just because we don't think that Jordan Love is at the same caliber as Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre? And as long as we had one of those two guys, it didn't matter. Like they were all that window was always open as long as we had them. It's just weird to me that we're putting a deadline on chances and hopes for this Packers team. I felt like if there was ever a chance that the Packers fell off, it was going to be in 2023. It was going to be that first year that Jordan Love took over from Aaron Rodgers. And then that year they almost went to the NFC Championship game. So I don't know. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, but I have a really hard time looking at this and going, well, if they don't do it by 2028, boy, Packer fans, get ready for the 70s because it's going to be a lot of like
if they don't win the championship by 2028, yeah, I mean, if they don't figure it out, there's no guarantee that Jordan Love's going to stick around. I mean, I think the biggest question when you talk about like I don't remember ever us talking about windows. I think like the financials of the NFL right now and the salary cap gymnastics are such that these contracts, nobody plays out their full contracts. So you promise all of this big money, but you front load it towards the back. So, just because you sign somebody for 5 years does not guarantee, especially the Packers. The Packers do 2 and 2, and they never pay people on that back half of that contract. And the only players that they do, they renegotiate and they keep kicking that dead cap money down the road. I think the biggest difference is Aaron Rodgers pretty quickly showed you that he was a guy. And so you extended that window as long as you possibly could. I just mean in this situation, if Jordan Love can't get the Packers to the promised land, this window will close. Just like the Packers window technically was closing with Aaron Rodgers in 2018 and then he went and won back-to-back MVPs, right? Like he found a way to open that window forcibly by himself. So that's what I mean by the language around it.
Sure, but with Aaron Rodgers, at any point, were you legitimately scared that he was going to go somewhere else? I feel like forever it was before that contract was legitimately coming to a close. The discussions were always about, and they're already working on extending Aaron Rodgers. They're always
that's because Aaron Rodgers was undoubtedly he's like I said, I think he's the most talented thrower to ever throw. There was no question. You have guys like this that you give contracts to until they want to retire. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, maybe Josh Allen, maybe not. His playoff performance has been terrible, but I mean, like you're talking about a caliber of a player that's in line with like maybe on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. Like you hold on to that guy until age gets in the way. The only decline Aaron Rodgers had was his age, and it really didn't even decline when he was a Packer.
I will tell you this. I will go on record right now in saying this, that unless Jordan Love falls off, if he continues at the level he's at, not even getting better, which I think he will, but if he stays lateral at the level he's at, there's no way the Packers are letting him walk. They will make him the highest paid quarterback, and we will go right down that path that we've been doing since Brett Favre. So I'm not really worried about a Jordan Loveless team in 2028. I think that either I don't know. I
think we've maybe got a little. I mean, we're talking about a pretty like a lofty topic. I guess my point, I was just framing it around this idea that like with this group of players, the cap gets really nasty in a couple of years. So why not keep Matt LaFleur around until the rubber meets the road in a bunch of different ways, and you can make a clean break. Keep Jordan Love, pivot a bunch of the rosters, open up a different timeline. You know what I mean? Don't keep Jordan Love, which I don't think is going to happen. Make moves on all these players. But to do all of that on top of right now, while these guys are under contract and the cap is in a spot where you can manage, keeping the coaching staff, at least the head coach, makes a lot of sense to me.
Football is not done for this season. We have the championship round. We're down to the final four in the NFL. We have the Rams, Seahawks, and the Patriots, Broncos. Both of those games being played on Sunday, local time, 2 p.m. and 5:30 here in the Central Time Zone. Not for you, Johnny, out there on the West Coast. But first of all, just talk to me about your thoughts on these four teams. And like, are you surprised that those are the 4 that are there? Was any of this shocking to you necessarily? And then we can get into what you think happens next after, but let's start there.
Yeah, shocking. I will say both sides have me a little surprised, but when you kind of dig into the numbers, both sides being both conferences, I will say that it gets less surprising the more you look into it. I'll start with the thing I was most surprised with. I did not think the New England Patriots would make their way back to an AFC championship so fast. Something I will say that makes it less surprising, even though that is my number one, is Drake May was a guy. You could tell he was a good quarterback. You know what I mean? New England has been steady as a rock. Culturally, they went the OJ Mayo route. Obviously, losing Bill Belichick is always going to be a huge problem. But the fact that the NFL let Mike Vrabel just sit on a couch for a year and then take his rightful place in New England is absolutely crazy. I mean, when you talk about like cultural tone setting, like I can't think of a better guy than that. I still can't believe the Titans used him as a scapegoat to get him out. That also blew my mind. But when you look at the way they play, they're like a tough, physical football team. They got a young guy who can make some pretty impressive throws, and their defense is sound, really, really sound and capable.
It's irritating, isn't it? It's irritating that it's the Patriots for me. I don't know that it should be. Like the Patriots, how long ago was it that the Patriots were, dynasty, Tom Brady? It was 6, 7 years?
Yeah.
At least. I mean, since the Patriots dynasty ended, you've had the Mahomes and Chiefs dynasty, you've had the Eagles amazing run, and yet it's like, oh, the Patriots, come on. Like it still stings, it still sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not surprised they're there. I'm still not surprised they're there.
And then same thing with the AFC too. You look at like, I think what's more surprising is the teams that aren't there. When you look at an AFC picture, you say the Chiefs weren't even playoff eligible by week 15. You look at the Buffalo Allens, the Josh Bills, and you think like, surely this is the year they make it to the AFC Championship or at least get to the Super Bowl because of how clear, and they couldn't get it done against the Broncos. I mean,
there were some controversial calls.
I know. But it's interesting how that team always seems to find itself in controversial calls on the wrong side of it,
Well, and now everything comes out because once they don't make it, then they let McDermott go, and then I don't even know where to begin with the press conferences that have been taking place.
Yeah, the owner interrupting
fire.
The owner interrupting the GM to be like, well, the coaches wanted Keon Coleman, and so that's not on Bean. So leave Brandon alone. And it's like, okay, well, Keon Coleman is still on this roster. He's still one of your players. So kind of weird, kind of interesting. But I think that's like more interesting. I mean, you look at Sean Payton, offensive genius. You look at their defense. Last year they were incredible. This year they kept being incredible. They found some really exciting young running backs. I think they need to prioritize running a little more, especially with Jared Stidham going out. I mean, you want to talk about surprises, losing Bo Nix for the rest of this year. Yeah, not great, which just kind of means the roadway for the Patriots is wide open.
Which again sucks. I think between the Patriots and the Broncos, I think I would have rather seen the Broncos get there. Yeah. I don't necessarily know why beyond the points we already pointed out, but it just sucked that like not only did the Broncos then eliminate the Bills, who I wanted to get there, but then to lose their quarterback in that game and go, oh, okay, so now that's a huge hit as just a fan of the NFL watching the AFC Championship game. So not a huge fan of that. And as you pointed out, I mean, they're trying to hype it up, make it seem like it's still going to be something. I think the Patriots just have a huge advantage in that game, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will. And then obviously moving over to the NFC side. I mean, I think we all agreed that the two most talented teams on the NFC side were the Seahawks and the Rams. So while the Rams road was maybe a little tougher and, Stafford looks hurt or not exactly right. And so they're liable to just kind of pee down their own leg in any of these games. I do think like this is a little more straightforward. Like, I think if I was being honest with myself, I was this is the NFC Championship I assumed was going to happen because of just where these rosters are. Sean McVay is still one of the better coaches in the league. He's got a whole tree for a reason. And then, I mean, the Seattle Seahawks defense it's incredible. And if they can figure out a way to, the Seahawks' biggest Achilles heel is their inability to just produce on offense for long stretches of games. And if they can figure out a way to force a couple turnovers and score early on the Rams, they might not need to, because their defense might be able to close the door. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. How do you feel about, I mean, surprising, not surprising, moving towards these games?
So the fact that the Rams are there makes sense to me, because the Rams were the number 1 seed for a long part of the season. They stayed there. Then Devontae got hurt, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, I don't know. This team's gonna be different without Devontae." Blah blah blah. They did fall off a little bit, but then Devontae came back, right? He had that. He only had like the 2 big catches in the game that got him to the NFC Championship game. But the Seahawks are more the interesting one to me, because I felt like between the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Rams, for the majority of the season in that battle in the West, the Seahawks weren't being the team that was talked about and hyped up. They were kind of just, if this was Mario Kart, they were just kind of coasting close in the back, waiting for that, that blue shell to just blow everyone up in front and then take the lead. Like, it was just kind of crazy how it came together. And then the playoffs come and you're like, oh, or like the last week of the season, right? Where they were fighting for that number 1 seed. And you were like, whoa, where'd the Seahawks team come from? Now we go in the NFC Championship game and I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, this team is dominant. Yeah. But I don't feel like, I'm surprised only because I don't feel like I had that mentality or that vision of the Seahawks all season long. It wasn't until 3 weeks ago that I really discovered, man, this Seahawks team is a monster. Good luck to everybody else.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. They definitely got their head coach hire right. It's cool. It's cool to see. What an interesting battle. I mean, I guess just like, and this is probably revisionist, I just assume the 49ers are going to figure it out late, and to watch them just absolutely not be able to figure them out and just get the doors blown off them. I mean, I'm definitely happy that wasn't the Packers' fate against the Bears, so at least that wasn't, heartbreaking. Heartbreak is better than just no chance at all. But you look at the adversity.
Disagree, but I agree with you in that case.
Yeah. I mean, the adversity that the 49ers were facing is just not too surprising. I mean, let's talk about the games. I mean, this is a perfect time to segue. We can stay in the NFC.
Yeah.
Who do you got? I think right now the Rams have 2.5 points. They're
So I'm going to go with the Rams. Even though I just got done saying how the Seahawks are monsters or whatever, because it came out that Seattle's running back is out in that game.
Yeah.
Charbonnet, or however you say his name.
Charbonnet. Yeah.
So that is, I think, a big factor. And as far as I know, no like key offensive weapons for the Rams got injured in that game against the Bears. I think the Rams might have been the only team out of the 4 teams that are moving on that didn't like have someone go out in the game that isn't going to be available in the championship game. So for that reason, I'm going to go the Rams. I think also maybe just giving a little bit of credit to McVay, I'm going to say maybe that pushes it as well. And the third and final reason, just personally as a fan, I don't have any faith on the other side in the AFC, and I don't want to see it be Patriots and Seahawks again. And so for that reason, I'm like, fine, have it be Patriot Rams.
Yeah.
I guess I'd rather see that story.
Yeah. I mean, what a weird, interesting world it is when we're rooting for an LA-based team as like the underdog, but I do feel you on that. I mean, just from the Devontae angle, I mean, I would not be upset with the Rams. I'm going to be honest. I would be happy with both. Obviously, I live in the Pacific Northwest. I'm not like a Seahawks sympathizer. And honestly, I don't really know that many people who care about Seahawks in Portland specifically. They're around. But I think it's a cool story about a program that, decided to make a move. They took a gamble on Darnold. He seems to be a guy, so I don't know. I think ultimately my pick is, I think the Seahawks win this game. I think like going going to Seattle and playing with the 12th man. That stadium is loud. It is hard to play in, and they're going to be, especially as like a divisional opponent in the NFC Championship. I think it's going to be like a really tough game. But I would, like I said, and I'll undercut everything I just said by like if we see a magical like Matt Stafford, like 5 touchdowns, 3 to Devontae, like vintage Lions in him, I'm not going to be mad about that either. So time will tell. Time will tell.
Question about Devontae. So are you someone like, I think about Drew Holiday, right? When Drew Holiday won his second championship with the Celtics, it stung even more for me. I wanted to be happy for him, but also I thought, like, I want him to retire a buck. I want his biggest moment to be with my team. Devontae never got a championship in Green Bay. Obviously, that was where he played the majority of his career. But if he gets a ring in LA, if I think that Devontae could be a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to think about like, okay, is he going to go in as a Ram? Though?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the only thing you could maybe say would be keeping him out of the Hall of Fame would be a ring. If he gets it, he's in for sure, I think.
Yeah,
and for that reason, I'm excited for him. I mean, I look at it this way: Packers, the other Packers players, the Packers coaching staff, we as Packer fans, less so. We failed Devontae. He was here. He did everything right for the most. You know what I mean? Like there were games where he was getting triple covered, and he was still finding ways to pluck balls out of the air so we could win football games. Like he did everything he could for the Packers, and they couldn't get over the hump. Like I as much as I like would hate to see him like accept on behalf of the Rams, I don't know if he would. He might, but that's just the way it goes. Like we had our chance with Devontae. We had way more years than the Rams did. This is just his first, So, yeah, it's one of those things that like. I just like Devontae so much. And like the reasons he left Green Bay, they all made sense to me. They kind of like jerked him around a little bit with like that $16.5 million contract he was asking, which now seems like so low, but they were like unwilling to pay it. And so they waited the year. He spoiled or soured. They offered him the same contract, and he could have taken it. Didn't, because the Packers didn't want to invest in him. And so, I can't fault him for that. So if he gets a ring, good for him. I mean, he's still awesome. He still talks about how much he's like still a Packer and he hates the Bears. He was going out before that game being like, listen, I will always want to beat the Bears. I'm still a Packer. Like my time in Green Bay has been incredible. So it's like, I'm all in. So if they can find a way to win, then I'm definitely rooting for it. But
you're thinking Seattle.
But I'm taking Seattle. Yeah.
All right. What about on the other side quickly? AFC.
I think the Patriots steamroll a Bo Nixless. Yeah, I just don't think they're going to be able to move the ball if they have to throw it.
Yep, I agree. I mean, obviously it's the NFL; anything can happen. But I think the AFC side of things is way more predictable than the NFC, and that'll be the first game. So we'll know who the NFC team is going to be playing before that matchup between the Rams and Seahawks. You talked, John, about Devontae and how, we kind of failed Devontae and, him moving on and seeing what he's doing with another team. Well, there's news. Freddy Peralta is going to be moving on. He's going to be doing other things. It's not going to be in a Brewers uniform. Freddy Peralta, the figured starting pitcher on opening day, will not be pitching for the Milwaukee Brewers. He was traded. We're going to talk about that coming up here because full disclosure, at the time of this recording, that's when that news broke. So obviously, as you're hearing this now, you're already well aware, but it's still exciting stuff. It's something that I felt like everyone knew was going to happen at some point. Was it going to be before the season, end of the season, or before trade deadline? It's already here. We're not even to spring training yet, and he is gone. And we have new people that we don't know to judge, talk about, and decide for ourselves if it was a good move or not. Now it's time to go to baseball, which cannot get here soon enough. And we had breaking news at the time of the podcast recording that Freddy Peralta has been dealt. He is gone. He is no longer a Milwaukee Brewer. The details, John, of where he is, where he's going, he's on his way to the Mets. And they are getting the Brewers are getting Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams. I'm not going to act for a second like I know anything about these guys. If they're
Yeah.
good, if this is going to be something, I don't know.
The other last little piece about that
Yeah.
is that Jeff Passan also said there's one more big league pitcher will head to the Mets. It's looking like that's going to be Tobias Myers.
Ooh.
Which, if you look at last year, he did kind of get pushed down the depth chart quite a bit. So, while you might be able to sell high on him, like there's just other players who are coming through the pipeline that I think are going to be able to give you what he's looking at. Like if he's kind of paves the way more for some more Chad Patrick, leads the way for more Logan Henderson. So those are the two big Brewers, at least being talked about. All of these trades aren't final until they're final, so you never know. But yeah, just something real quick. Brandon Sproat. We're trading for some of the best prospects the Mets have to offer. There was before I get into the players, I do want to share this anecdote. Somebody Kylie McDaniel on Blue Sky was posted, I'm finalizing the top 100 in farm rankings, and it works out that by a tiny margin, this trade takes the Mets farm system from number 1 ranked to number 6, and it also moves the Brewers from number 6 to number 1. So we are getting 2 bona fide prospects in return for Freddy Peralta, which in my opinion is very good business. Brandon Sproat is going to be your most like 1-to-1 in the sense that he is a starting caliber pitcher. He has like a 4-pitch mix, fastball, slider, changeup, and they're all above average. If you look at like their pitch stuff, there's like all these metrics to talk about how it moves and everything like that. And I guess he's been toying with like a sinker that
Hopefully a sinker, not a stinker.
Yeah, sinker, not stinker. Hopefully they can try to develop that. I guess he's thrown it. I mean, I trust our pitching lab more than anything. Like if you're going to turn a Quentin Priester into a bona fide starting pitcher, taking a guy with already like ace caliber pedigree stuff, and maybe not exactly ace, but starting caliber stuff, and bringing him to this organization, I feel really good about that return. And then the other guy is Jet Williams, and he think of like the Durbin Frelick mold. Like we're talking like 5'8", scrappy. He might be shorter than 5'8", who plays second, short, and outfield. So you talk about all the spots that the Brewers could improve quickly. Those are all the spots that, if Joey Ortiz is slumping, you can get a guy in there who can play multiple positions. You can maybe even keep Caleb at third if you want to give Jet some play at second, right? It allows for some flexibility that I think the Brewers sorely need. And I think he has like a good hit profile. And the big notes around his profile are his patience and his like just overall speed, which the Brewers love. They want guys who take balls, make good hitting decisions, and can run around the bases when they need to. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. 1 year, $8 million. They were never going to sign him to a $150 million contract. You see some contracts that are going out. There's just, you got to get stuff back for your guys in a market like the Brewers. And this is just the way it goes. I love Freddy Peralta. What an incredible guy. I mean, everything you hear about him has been absolutely electric and fantastic, but the writing's been on the wall, and it's starting pitchers. And we were talking about this 2 weeks ago. Like Freddy Peralta being on the trade block was more valuable than every other free agent starting pitcher that was available. And so to get 2 pieces who you could develop and have meaningful impact on this roster next year while you're waiting on your next round of guys, bit of a pivot, but the Brewers, Andrew Fisher was ranked the number 1 third base prospect in all of baseball. You look at Jesus Mate, who's a couple years away. You look at my prospects are a little low right now.
Yeah, that's all right.
The other Rattler. Either way, there's guys coming, and this is like, these are the intermediaries. So you're seeing the skeleton, like the skeleton form of what our lineup's going to be with the younger guys and the guys that are already on the roster. So time will tell. It seems like everyone thinks everyone got fleeced. So it was probably just a good trade for both sides.
All right, here are my initial thoughts. First of all, I was fine with the Brewers moving on from Freddie. I thought that Freddie had a really, really good season when he knew he needed to have a really, really good season for himself, for his career, for getting that big contract. He had to put up big numbers, big stats. He was third in Cy Young voting. He did exactly what he needed to not only benefit himself, but the Brewers. on the trade block, knowing that the Brewers were going to be in a position to trade him. And they did. They did exactly that. I wanted to be satisfied with the haul that we could get for Freddie. I understand it's a 1-year rental. It's not something to where you're going to have team control for the next 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it is. Because if it was, then the Brewers wouldn't have moved on. My thing is, I'm just not positive that I'm in love with the fact that they got Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams. Obviously, as you just mentioned, time will tell. Who knows for sure. First thing I'm confused about, though, is that they said prospects, right? So I heard 2 of their top prospects. But then, like, I don't understand necessarily how this works, because Sproat pitched for the Mets last season. He got called up to the active roster, and he pitched 2 games. He was 0-2 with a 4.79 ERA. So it's not like he was, spent the entire time in Double-A and we're going, hey, this kid might really be something. He's got electric stuff. He was there. And so I'm just kind of confused at how that all worked, and I'm trying to figure that out in my brain. Yeah. And then the Jet Williams thing, I'm excited about, because I feel like if he's everything you just said, that's great. That's great for this organization. That's great for this team. That's great for working with Murph and the mentality that this Brewers young, scrappy, scrawny, outstanding athletic players, vibe. So I'm excited more for, I think, the Jet Williams side of this. But yeah, I don't know. Like you said, time will tell. Initial reaction, though, is very meh on what we got back for Freddy Peralta. I wanted more. Again, I don't know that regardless of what we got back, I would have been like, holy crap, that was a haul. But I would have loved a little bit more.
Yeah. It's going to be tough until you see these guys in Brewers uniforms and everything like that. It definitely, just taking a look at the starting pitching, I think it's like we definitely are in need of probably maybe some sort of free agent signing, a la like a Jose Quintana, just like another veteran pitcher, because all of a sudden the rotation gets real young, real fast. And yep. I'll be perfectly candid. I don't know if Sproat makes the opening day roster. I think if you look at his pitching profile, it seems like a quick, X blue sky Google search will tell you that the foundations of a really an elite pitcher are in there, and it's going to be them having to figure out a way to make that happen. Right. And so I trust that development. I don't think they trade Freddie for guys they're not excited about. And there were reports this morning talking about Jonah Tong's name being thrown out there, Sproat, Jet Williams, and that Stearns was like these guys are not in the mix. And I think maybe they got worn down and realized that they were not going to have access to a pitcher as good as Freddie. And also I think the Brewers had to be excited that they were going to be, if you look at MLB Pipeline, which I was doing while you were talking, don't be mad. We're talking about the 3rd and 5th best prospect that the Mets have to offer right now. That is, This is baseball. You don't trade star player for star player. Rarely. You trade star players for promise. It was a 1-year rental, and we just returned the 3rd and 5th ranked prospect in their farm system, and they're ranked the number 1 farm system in the MLB until they made this trade. So you talk about what they gave up, it's interesting because it's just more high caliber players, and this is how small market teams need to operate. They need to say keep giving us your potential, and it'll be on us to figure out how to get them to produce. So let's see. Freddie was not staying here. I would have loved to have him. I think there's enough pitching right now that
we might be okay.
We might be okay. We might not. Freddie isn't the most dominating ace in the world. Up until last year, there were a lot of conversations about whether you would ever consider Freddie an ace. And I think he solidly answered that. And I'm going to miss him. I thought he was the best 3 that ever existed, clearly. And then he moved on to being maybe the best second starter on a pitch in a major league rotation. You know what I mean? He is that guy, and he is that good. So it's a 1-year rental. The Mets gave up way more than what the Brewers got, and it might feel underwhelming, but this is the world you live in when you're talking about a 1-year rental. If he was under contract, maybe we could have got maybe a couple more established big league names, but the Mets basically emptied their coffers for the next 162 games. And who knows? He might sign with the Mets. Lord knows they have the money to pay him. But for now, it's just it's just a 1-year rental. So
right. I think that my overall feelings though on this are this continues to be what the Brewers have been for the last decade of the bites of the apple mentality. I don't see this being a move that's a Doug Melvin. We're pushing our chips in and we're taking a shot that we haven't seen in a decade. I think you're spot on that this is, hey, we already have some guys in the pipeline that are going to be very exciting in the next couple of years of Brewers baseball. And now we're adding more exciting and electric players to that. And that's a little difficult, though, of a pill to swallow when you look at what this team did last year and wanting to build on that and go, okay, but this team was the number one team in baseball at the end of the regular season. Number one team in all of baseball. So you kind of wanted to see, like, can we make a push? Can we do something to get past the Dodgers or give ourselves another shot at the Dodgers? And I don't know that this trade makes me feel like that's what the target was. The only thing I'm kind of setting back on is I don't know that Freddy was that impact player that was going to change it either. So I think to your point, there's already a lot of young, awesome talent, pitching talent on this Brewers team that's there now that should be able to make a statement as a pitching rotation. And I don't know that they needed Freddie to keep that stable. And so I think it's a good move to get rid of him. I think it's just, if you're looking at this as a fan, you might be saying they're just not getting something that truly is helping that team right now. It's helping the future Brewers.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw a Brewers team that won a bunch of games. I want to see them win that whole damn thing in 2026. And I just don't know if that happens.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other can of worms with no salary cap, with other teams able to spend the way they spend, defer contracts the way they defer, lock out the way the MLB loves to lock out. It's like there's so many different things. I mean, It's tough. There's so many different rosters. They're fielding teams that never even touch American soil and they have rights to these players. Like it's crazy the way these farm systems work. And so even hearing you talk about it, I'm like, it's like, does this move impact like a win now kind of thing? It's like, that's like what free agency is for. And that's just stuff Brewers don't do. So it's just one of those things where it's like, it's just kind of like all you can do is just kind of keep turning one great guy into two already above average players. And hopefully they become great. And it's just like exponential growth, multiplying effect, compounding interest over and over, so that eventually we can just be like, this team is unstoppable. And as fun as it was watching them win, they were not unstoppable.
No,
last year, They played a very gnarly, fun. It's the best season of baseball I've ever watched in my entire life, straight up.
Yep. But it didn't end where it needed to.
But it did not end where it needed to. Absolutely not. But I will say, I definitely want to keep watching seasons like last year, as opposed to my entire 20 years of living before. So,
absolutely.
this is just where we're at until they fix the CBA, institute a salary cap, nuke LA off the face of the earth. I don't really know,
And while that might be happening in the near future, it won't be happening next season. And there is still a lot of exciting things to look forward to with the Milwaukee Brewers. Freddy Peralta will not be a part of it. We will be a part of your schedule next week as well. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Don't Tell Me How to Fan. Tune in next time, because we're not done yet.